Welcome again to another video, my fellow students. In this video, I wanted to somewhat dissect a character arc, which I feel is only going to get stronger. Now, I put out a video about Robbie's arc and why I think it's going to be the best arc of Season 3. But here is one that I think a lot of people are more interested in, and that is the evolution of Hawk. Now, if you look at Hawk's arc with just sort of a broad brush, you kind of see it as bullied nerd becomes confident badass. But to me, it's a little bit deeper than that. And the reason for the thumbnail being the way it is because I feel like Hawk has this mental health kind of split personality complex. Now, remember in Season 2, when him and Demetri are sat there, his girl's kind of moved on with, another girl, and he's sat there just sort of, in his feelings. He's masking it, he's trying to hide it, but you can see in the look in his eyes that it's hurt him, to see her move on with someone else, and, he's just got to basically sit there and stomach it. And then him and Demetri start to bond and, geek out about Doctor Who, and then you start to briefly see Eli. The whole Hawk facade just kind of fades away, and you really start to see Eli again. And it's in that moment that you think, oh, is he? Maybe? And then all of a sudden does a 180 and then pours the water on Demetri. Well, not water, I think it was drink. Demetri's head, and then, continues on with his Hawk persona. But it was in that small, briefest moment that you see the vulnerability of Eli within Hawk. And the Hawk persona is, to me, it's nothing more than a mask to hide how vulnerable he really feels deep down inside. And this is a testament to Jacob Bertrand's acting. The scene in which where his mother, rings up the school and tells them the problems, and then, he's breaking down and saying he's never going to have a girlfriend, he's never going to have any other friends besides Demetri. And then he storms off into his room, breaking down in tears, and it cuts to him present day getting a tattoo and the red hair. It's sort of admirable in the sense that he turned his life around by being able to get what he wanted. He wanted more friends, besides Demetri, check. He wanted to be able to get a girlfriend, check. And he wanted to grow in confidence. And in Season 1, when Miguel beat up Kyler and the crew, Eli did say to him that, he thought it was pretty cool. And then all of a sudden he comes back with this mohawk and then says he's flipping the script, and now Stingray's kind of, taking it on and trying to do the same thing. Not sure it really works as well, but it's a cool gag. But it's through that Eli is able to sort of mask his pain and hide his feeling under this Hawk persona, this Hawk identity. And it's almost become an obsession. It's more about the persona and the look, rather than who he is at his core. And that is what just makes his character so interesting. And I think if you look at where he started from to where he is now, it's just such an evolution. I'd say he's probably the most evolved character in the show in terms of where we're introduced to them from. You could say, well, yeah, Johnny, Miguel, Robbie, Daniel. But the thing is, those characters, they just grow and learn. In terms of evolution and where they start out, where we're introduced to them, and then where they end up, Hawk, I think, has definitely been by far and above the best in that respect. And I'm very excited to see where they're going to take him in Season 3, because I do feel like in Season 2, they were really planting the seeds for him to be Kreese's number one, protege, if you will. You remember when Kreese is in the dojo and he's saying to him, oh, I did all this great stuff with the Delta Boys and whatever, and then, Hawk's like, oh, badass. He's buying into it, because at the same time, Kreese is using a facade, Hawk, Eli's using a facade, so it goes hand in hand. But throughout Season 2, Hawk had this sort of desire to me. He had this determination, more so than he did in Season 1. In Season 1, he just became more confident and then thought it was funny to just kind of kick Bert in the face. And it really grew him as a character. He did kind of get cocky and, start throwing his shirt off and flexing his muscles in some very cringeworthy stuff. But, it was tolerable, and it was interesting to see where he started from to where he ended up there. But in Season 2, I do feel like he feels like he is more. And in all the fights that he was in, he got his ass handed to him by Robbie and Sam. He got beaten by Miguel in the forest. Then he lost again to Demetri. So essentially, I think for season 3 especially, Hawk needs a win, just to balance the scales. And I think the win will come in the form of the snippet that we got, where his knuckles are bloody. Now, someone did mention in the comments saying that they think it might be Demetri going to the, having an altercation with him and Demetri getting put on the floor. I think that's possible. That's a possibility. Do I think Demetri will die from it? Probably not, because it's too predictable if they put that in the trailer. But I do feel it is definitely a 100% possibility with everything that has been set up for Hawk's character. And, I'm also interested, is he going to change his hair color again? What color do you think he's going to change it to this time? I mean, I personally am happy with it staying red, but, it wouldn't surprise me if he changes it to yellow or, like, dark green kind of style. Comment down below, what hair color do you think he should have? Maybe all the colors of the rainbow. But it is kind of tragic when you look back at the character of Eli. Whenever you rewatch this series, you go back to season 1, and you just see Eli as this kind of shy, quiet, nerdy kid who, means no ill will to anyone. And then you fast forward to season 2, and he's going on a rampage through the school when the school fight's happening. And he's just, mercilessly beating the crap out of everyone. It does communicate to me that he will be Kreese's star pupil of Cobra Kai. Now that the new regime has started to take hold and Kreese is kind of taking up the mantle of it and taking it back, I think he will push Hawk in that direction. And we already see those kind of seeds planted when Hawk goes and trashes the Miyagi dojo, which I thought was a really scummy move. And let's be honest, I mean, come on, we all didn't like that. That wasn't nice at all. And then stealing the Medal of Honor, I mean, come on. So I was happy when Miguel put him on his ass and, said that's all I've got, and basically took the medal back. And then, Robbie lied and pretended it was just left there. Thanks, Robbie. But I do feel like that seed was planted between Miguel and Hawk, because the very next day Miguel goes up to Hawk and he says about Coyote Creek, and then Hawk says, "We were enemies for a day, we're Cobra Kai for life." To me, it felt like he shrugged it off a little too quickly. And Hawk is one of those characters that I do feel... people have compared him to Dutch, but for me, I feel like he's worse. I feel like he's much more unstable, he's much more erratic, and he's a lot more unpredictable. Dutch, yeah, he's definitely, a madman, and definitely had his irrational moments, where he's like, well, look who it is, little Daniel. You remember that moment? And then when he's about to fight Daniel on the mat, and he's shaking his head left, right, and center like a crazy guy. So him ending up in prison was definitely fitting for his character. But I do feel with Hawk, there is a sense of danger with him in terms of how unpredictable he is. And I feel like because he might not... he will train and train and train, but I don't feel like he'll be on the same level as Robbie and Miguel, like, ever. So I feel like he'll be one of those characters that will do the underhanded stuff to get the victory, or at least in his eyes, the victory. So the whole, you don't have to fight dirty thing, I do feel like Hawk will take that route and will definitely pursue that avenue a lot more. And especially with season 3, he's got a point to prove. After Miguel put him on his ass and he was talking all this smack, he's got a lot to sort of work up for. He had a lot of losses, so he's definitely going to be even more determined to come out on top with some kind of win. And it's just going to be so interesting to see. It does kind of make for a bit of tragedy, the way his character has gone. I mean, could you imagine, just think about this, if Demetri sort of becomes like the badass version of Hawk, but Miyagi version, and ends up getting like Moon or something, just to, oh god, that would sting him even more. Just imagine that. But I do feel like the seed was planted by Kreese to really push Hawk as his star pupil, and the seed was planted for a future Miguel and Hawk rivalry. I do feel like there's something there that down the road that you're going to see Hawk and Miguel go at it. So I feel this is why I do feel like the Miguel and Robbie kind of fighting stuff, I feel like that's done. I know Miguel will be pissed off that Robbie sent him over a flight of stairs, but to me, I feel like that's done. We've seen that fight more than enough now. And I do feel like it's time for a fresh change-up. And what better way to change it up than to have the two of Cobra Kai's best duking it out? Like, I think that would be such a great route to take. And again, it's just so tragic at where you look at where this character has gone, because there's a glimpse of Eli in there. There's a real glimpse of him in there, and it does pay testament to the phrase, you know, villains aren't born, they're made. And that's essentially what Eli was. He was a bullied victim, he felt powerless, and now he has power. He's taken the irresponsible route, and he's the inverse of Miguel, because him and Miguel were pretty much the same kind of person. Both nerdy, both kind of shy, quiet. And they both became confident. But Miguel became confident and Hawk became arrogant. So they both kind of are similar, yet their approach is different, if you know what I mean. And Miguel is a good fighter, but he's humble. Hawk is a good fighter, but he's cocky. And I do feel like the seed is planted for a long-term rivalry with that. I feel like they're going to go that route. But, you know, at the end of the day, this is all just speculation. This is just another one of them videos where I just wanted to talk about the character of Hawk and where I think they could take him. Because, to me, you know, as much as I said Robbie's going to have the best arc, I think Hawk will, to majority of people, I think Hawk is going to have the most interesting arc, or, you know, will probably have the best payoff. And it's a terrible shame that, you know, the glimpse of Eli that's within him, he represses because he feels shame. You know, that it reminds him so much of when he was a victim. And I feel like he suffers from a complex where he doesn't want to feel like that. So it's almost tragic in a way, where we look at the character, and if you've ever been bullied in any aspect of life, whether it be school, work, wherever, you can sympathize with him on that level. But what Hawk and Miguel both represent in this case is the action you take. Do you forgive your enemies and do you move on and then you take the better path like Miguel? Or do you not forgive your enemies? Do you hold on to hatred? Do you hold on to grudges? And do you even try to start fight with your own friends? Which is essentially what he does to Demetri in the comic book store. Now, before that fight takes place, I do want to say, I do kind of like how his mohawk was just walking past the aisle, sort of like a Jaws moment there. But it's the way he pushes Demetri, and he says, take it down or we take you down. And then Demetri says, you'd actually hurt me. And then you see like a look on his face. There's a look there of, you know, Eli. There's Eli in there. But again, the Hawk persona comes out and pushes it back in. So that's just kind of where I wanted to go with this video. But guys and girls, comment down below and let me know. What are your thoughts on Hawk's progression throughout the 2 seasons? Where do you think his character's going to end up? What hair color do you think he's going to have? And do you also believe that maybe Hawk and Miguel will become future rivals? Or do you think Hawk is going to be on a complete warpath this season, trying to prove himself to be the best? Because now the main, you know, the star pupil of Cobra Kai is in the hospital. It then gives a platform for Hawk to really demonstrate his worth. And realistically, the only person in Cobra Kai that can really kind of hold a candle to him is Tori. You know, the other guy that was introduced in season 2, he's a decent fighter, but in terms of the level that Hawk and Miguel are at, no one really comes close. And, you know, I feel like Tori and Hawk are definitely somewhat of a match made in heaven. They're both, you know, dastardly dangerous and relentless and unpredictable, and, you know, they'll fight dirty to get whatever they want. But I do feel like Kreese is really going to push him forward this season, and I'm excited to see where that goes. So again, guys and girls, comment down below, let me know. I hope you're all doing well, wherever you may be on planet Earth. And I know I said that the last time, and someone said, why didn't I say the world? Well, I don't know. Sounded cooler. Anyway, comment down below, let me know. As always, the conversation starts here but continues down there. And remember, defeat does not exist in this dojo.